I hope this video really hits the Philadelphia Eagles fans' toxic side of their fan base. I hope it really hits them to let them know that this is not the same player that they've seen the last year. Carson Wentz out there continuing to work out with his guys in Indianapolis. One of these guys is Michael Strachan, 6'5" wide receiver that we just drafted out of the last season. The last draft. This is just another thing that goes into what we were trying to express for Carson Wentz in this next year. How he is not the same guy that the Eagles fans last seen him. I think, like I said, is all the time. The fan base, the organization has a lot to do with why Carson Wentz was the way he was. Like I said, of course, he still has his own doubts and his own problems when it comes to playing football. The holding on the football for everything, but most of his downfall was not because of him. You look at that team and you think this team is not going anywhere. You can ask any team in that division about the Eagles last year. They were not a threat. They were not a threat. That team was probably one of the worst teams last season. And then you get rid of the guy, and the Colts pick him up. And some fans just narrow-headed. Some fans just think that, just because of last year, they're going to be the same way for the rest. So good luck. But most people, they had that same thought with Xavier Rhodes. And Xavier Rhodes, he had a bad year in Minnesota. And he came to Indianapolis and reemerged, became a really good corner again. So I have this perception with Carson Wentz as well. You give him a role to go out there and play football. You give him his old offensive coordinator as a head coach. You give him a QB coach as an offensive coordinator. You give him a bunch of weapons. You give him a tight end who's pretty much one of the tallest tight ends in the NFL that can go catch the football. You give him a veteran former Pro Bowler in Jack Doyle. You give him a receiving tight end in Kylan Granson. You give him a wide receiver who's a vet that led the league in receiving yards in T.Y. Hilton one year. You give him that. You give him Michael Pittman Jr., who bursted out on the scene last season. You give him a potential speedy receiver in Paris Campbell. You give him Zachary Pascal, who's a mountaineer who's going to go get it every time. He's very reliable. In Zachary Pascal, you're a reliable wide receiver. You want to tell him, we're going to run the football. So who do you give him? You give him Jonathan Taylor, who bursted out at the end of the year. You give him Marlon Mack, who was a dog before he got hurt and is coming back as a duo. You give him a speedy, elusive Naheem Hines. You give him a Pro Bowler, one of the best left guard in the NFL in Quentin Nelson. Ryan Kelly, you give him that at center. You give him Mark Lanowski at right guard. You give him Braden Smith, who's the best right tackle, who doesn't give up a sack on the right-hand side. Left tackle, you know what, Carson, is going to be rough. But we're going to go get Eric Fisher for you, who's coming off of an injury, Super Bowl champion. You give him all these weapons. You give him a Sam Tevi. You give him all these things, all the tools to be successful going into next season. And yet, he's still out here being crucified. Some people still don't have faith in him. They don't see the potential. And it's kind of crazy, but it is realistic. I mean, that's just how fans are. Fans, analysts, scouts, that's how they are. I don't knock it at all because I understand. But, he's going out there week by week at OTAs, practices, all these things. He's showing you that I believe that I can go out there and do it again. That 2017 year was not a fluke. I can go out there and do that. Now, saying we don't need that 2017, but we just need a little 50% of that. That's not going to be a hard task for Carson Wentz. He's out there working with these receivers. You see it on Instagram all the time from Mike's Instagram. It just gives you a sigh of that he's going to have a good year. He's not going to have the best year, but he's going to have a good year, and he's going to bounce back from that last year he had with Philadelphia. And I just feel like it's going to be one of those years that Carson Wentz goes out there and he go do what he does. And that's how confident I am going into next season with Carson Wentz. Like I said, I don't think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback. No. Top 15, yes. We don't need him to be top 5 to make the Super Bowl or to make the playoffs. We don't need him to be top 5 to make the playoffs. We just need him to game manage, throw the ball when it's needed, we know he's a gunslinger. He's going to get the ball in the air, and we have the receivers to do so. So that doesn't worry me. When it comes down to is coaching, game plan. That's what it comes down to, because we get away from the game plan very often, and that's what kills us. Excuse me. And that's what kills us when we go away from our game plan. So next year, we got so many tricks up our sleeve that we can pull off to perform to beat these teams next year. It's just that it's incredible. It's going to be a roller coaster of a year. I know it, because the schedule is going to be tough. It's going to be a tough schedule, but I think the Colts can pull it off and get at least 11 wins. They can get 10 to 11 wins, no problem. The Tennessee Titans is going to be a tough fight, but we can beat them. We can beat the Titans. That's no question. We can beat the Titans, man. Derrick Henry is great. He's a good running back. Julio Jones, top 5 wide receiver. Understandable. But we can beat the Titans. The Texans are no contest. The Jaguars is going to be a big question mark going into next year, but we can do that as well. The Rams is going to be a good fight. The Rams is going to be good. The Seahawks, week 1. Most people know that we lose week 1s almost every year. Openers, we lose almost every year. We know that. But we can beat the Seahawks too. You just have to trust Carson Wentz. Trust the offense. Trust Coach Frank Reich. Trust the scheme. Pass rush is back. We got the pass rush now. We have pass rush. Now, they're untapped potential, but the fact that we have it should solidify that we got promise that we can go out there and do it. It's going to be gunslinger versus gunslinger in week 1. Air it out Russ versus air it out Wentz. Week 1. Our defense can get the job done. We know Seahawks are a good team, but Carson Wentz can definitely carve up the Seahawks defense. And then the fact that he's working out with this 6'5" wide receiver, if he goes out there and he can perform and he gets a spot and he's actually playing out there, just think about him and Michael Pittman Jr. lined up and T.Y. Hilton out there on the same formation. Those 3 guys can definitely tear up a defense. And then mobile Carson Wentz, if he's out there, he can be mobile, adjusted on the fly. If he goes out there and be a leader that we are asking him to be, the Colts are in good position to make the playoffs. But you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section about Carson Wentz working out with Mike Strachan. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his last name right. But let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts about Wentz going into next season. How do you feel about our wide receiver core? Let me know all these things in the comment section. This is Marcus, and until next time, you've been Culture Shark. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, turn on the notifications as well when I go live. Appreciate all the support, man. Peace.